When Liam Carter finally bought his first house in Silverpine Ridge, he thought he had escaped the relentless chaos of city life. The apartment he had rented for years had been cramped, noisy, and impersonal, a place where he felt more like a visitor than a resident. Now, standing in front of a modest yet charming two-story home framed by maple and birch trees, Liam felt a rare sense of relief wash over him. The street was quiet, the sidewalks clean, and the occasional bird call punctuated the morning air. This was exactly the kind of place he had imagined when he dreamed of owning a home, peaceful, private, and free. For the first few weeks, Liam immersed himself in his new life. He unpacked boxes, arranged his furniture just the way he liked, and spent long afternoons in the backyard tending to the small garden he had planted before moving in. Each evening, he would sit on the porch, sipping coffee as the sunset painted the horizon in shades of orange and pink. There were no neighbors watching his every move, no letters criticizing the shape of his mailbox or the height of his grass. It was perfect, and for the first time in years, Liam felt he had found a sanctuary. Silverpine Ridge, however, bordered a community called Elmwood Estates, a neighborhood infamous for its overbearing homeowners association. Their president, Vivian Harper, was a woman whose reputation preceded her. To her, order wasn't just important, it was everything. She prided herself on enforcing regulations with meticulous precision, often going so far as to send notices for minor deviations in landscaping or paint color. While most residents of Elmwood had learned to live under her watchful eye, anyone new to the area quickly realized how deeply entrenched her authority was. Liam's house happened to sit just a few feet from the border separating Silverpine Ridge from Elmwood Estates. From the road, it looked as though it belonged to the neighboring community, and Vivian had apparently decided that appearances alone were enough to justify her attention. At first, Liam noticed nothing unusual. He waved to a few neighbors who seemed friendly enough, went about his days working remotely as a software developer, and enjoyed the rare quiet of suburban life. Then the first letter arrived. It was slipped under his front door, printed on glossy letterhead bearing the Elmwood Estates logo, and inside was a list of violations. His mailbox allegedly didn't meet the community standard. His garden, though carefully planned, was deemed inconsistent with neighborhood aesthetics. Even the placement of his porch lights had been criticized. Liam stared at the letter in disbelief. He wasn't part of Elmwood Estates. County property records confirmed it, and his purchase agreement had explicitly stated that he was in Silverpine Ridge, a neighborhood without any WHOA oversight. Surely, this had to be a mistake. He tossed the letter aside and tried to ignore it. But within a week, another envelope appeared, followed by a third. Each letter grew increasingly aggressive. The language shifted from polite warnings to formal demands. Fines were threatened. He was accused of repeated non-compliance, and warned that legal action would follow if he did not rectify all violations immediately. What began as a minor annoyance quickly escalated into a daily source of stress. Liam found himself double-checking every aspect of his property, constantly worried that some arbitrary standard might be violated. One afternoon, Liam received a voicemail that sent a shiver down his spine. Vivian's voice was calm, measured, yet sharp, carrying a hint of menace. "Mr. Carter, your property clearly falls within Elmwood Estates' jurisdiction. You have been non-compliant with multiple community regulations. Contact our office immediately to discuss corrective measures." Liam replayed the message several times, trying to make sense of it. This had to be a misunderstanding. He had all the documents proving his property was outside Elmwood Estates. He called her office directly, expecting a brief conversation to clarify the error. When Vivian answered, there was no warmth in her voice. "Mr. Carter," she said, "your home is now under our oversight. All notices you've received are valid, and failure to comply will result in penalties." Liam's patience thinned. He calmly explained the situation, citing property deeds and county records. Vivian's response was unnerving. "Documentation does not supersede community regulations," she said, as if legal evidence were irrelevant in the face of her authority. Liam ended the call, uneasy, sensing that this was only the beginning. Days turned into weeks. Liam began noticing unusual activity near his home. A white sedan would often park across the street for hours. At times, he saw people taking photos of his property when he wasn't outside. A creeping sense of paranoia settled over him. What had begun as bureaucratic overreach had begun to feel like harassment. He decided to document everything. Security cameras were installed around the perimeter, and every letter and voicemail was saved. Each new notice seemed to carry a personal undertone, as if Vivian derived satisfaction from seeing him stressed. Then came the knock. It was late morning when Liam, immersed in a coding project, heard a forceful pounding on his front door. He checked the security feed and froze. Vivian was standing there, flanked by two men in work uniforms, each carrying a toolbox. Her demeanor was rigid, authoritative. "Mr. Carter," she announced loudly, "we are here to enforce Elmwood Estates regulations. You have failed to comply with repeated notices, and we are authorized to take corrective action immediately." Liam's pulse quickened, but he kept his composure. He spoke through the intercom. "You do not have the right to enter my property. Step back, and I will call the police." Vivian's expression tightened, but she didn't retreat. "Authority is not optional," she said, and motioned to her accomplices to begin moving toward the porch. Liam dialed 911, his voice steady as he explained the situation, describing the trespassing and the claims of enforcement. He made sure every movement was captured by his cameras, aware that this evidence could be critical. The officers arrived within minutes, sirens piercing the suburban quiet. Vivian attempted to argue, waving papers she claimed were official documents. The officers quickly reviewed the property records, cross-checked them with county maps, and determined that Vivian had no legal authority over Liam's home. She was detained on the spot for trespassing and attempted intimidation. The two men accompanying her admitted they had been instructed that the operation was legal, unaware they were participating in unlawful actions. What followed was a whirlwind. The incident became headline news across the county. Homeowner stands up to overreaching HOA president. Investigations revealed that Vivian had a history of modifying maps and letters to extend her influence into neighboring properties. Emails surfaced showing her obsession with control and her disregard for legal boundaries. Liam's meticulous recordings became the backbone of both criminal and civil cases. Over the next several months, the legal battle unfolded with intensity. Vivian faced charges for harassment, forgery, and trespassing. Civil suits were filed seeking compensation for emotional distress, property damage, and lost time. Liam's case not only defended his home but also highlighted the risks of unchecked authority in homeowners associations. Every day brought new revelations, manipulated documents, coerced HOA members, and attempts to intimidate other residents who might challenge Vivian. The court proceedings drew attention from media outlets, turning the quiet neighborhood into a stage for a high-profile legal battle. Throughout it all, Liam remained composed. He continued his work, tended to his garden, and maintained his daily routine as much as possible. The cameras he had installed became a symbol of both caution and empowerment, a reminder that vigilance could preserve peace. Neighbors began to approach him, sharing similar stories of minor overreach or intimidation by the HOA, and together they found a sense of solidarity. Vivian's defense attempted to argue that she had acted in good faith, believing Liam's property fell under Elmwood Estates. But the evidence was overwhelming. Forged letters, fabricated maps, and testimonies from HOA members who had been pressured or ignored. The jury found her guilty on all counts. She faced a prison sentence, fines, and permanent disqualification from holding any HOA office. Her reputation was irreparably damaged, and she became a cautionary tale for HOA governance statewide. As the dust settled, Liam reflected on the ordeal. His home, once a sanctuary threatened by an overzealous authority, had become a testament to resilience and standing one's ground. He invested in reinforcing security, replacing the front door with a solid steel frame, and upgrading his surveillance system. A small but clear sign was installed on the property line: private property, not part of Elmwood Estates. It served as both a practical warning and a symbolic declaration of independence. The aftermath reshaped the community. Silverpine Ridge residents felt empowered to assert their rights, and Elmwood Estates underwent significant reform. The new HOA leadership instituted checks and balances, mandatory legal reviews of enforcement actions, and training for board members on homeowners' rights. Liam's experience sparked discussions about fair governance, the limits of authority, and the importance of respecting property boundaries. Months later, life slowly returned to normal. Liam resumed his routines, but with a new sense of vigilance. He became an advocate for homeowner rights, speaking at community meetings and participating in forums about HOA reform. Residents from both neighborhoods, once wary of each other, began to interact more openly, attending seasonal gatherings and organizing joint community projects. Liam's story, covered extensively by local media, became a reference point for anyone facing undue pressure from governing bodies. Despite the challenges, Liam found a renewed sense of purpose. His home, once threatened by manipulation and intimidation, had become a sanctuary once again. The psychological strain of the confrontation lingered, but it also strengthened his resolve. He realized that standing firm against overreach was not just about defending property, it was about preserving dignity, autonomy, and the quiet freedom that made a home truly a home. Even as the neighborhood returned to its peaceful rhythms, the lessons remained clear. Authority without accountability can be dangerous, and vigilance is essential to protect one's rights. Liam's garden continued to flourish, the porch lights glowed warmly each evening, and the maple and birch trees swayed gently in the breeze. The once overbearing shadow of Elmwood Estates had been lifted, leaving behind a community that valued fairness, respect, and the individual freedoms that Liam had fought to protect. Whenever Liam stepped onto his porch, he would glance at the property line and remember the battle he had faced. It wasn't just about wall letters, fines, or even intrusion. It was about courage, resilience, and the conviction to defend what is right. His story became a quiet inspiration, a testament to the power of standing up for oneself, and a reminder that even in the face of oppressive rules, integrity and perseverance could prevail. Through it all, Liam's life returned to a rhythm of peace. He spent his days coding, tending to his garden, and occasionally mentoring new homeowners on the intricacies of property rights and wall boundaries. The experience had reshaped him, teaching patience, strategy, and the subtle art of asserting authority without aggression. The neighborhood, too, was transformed. Silverpine Ridge was no longer just a cluster of houses. It became a community aware of its rights, vigilant yet compassionate, and bonded by shared experiences. Elmwood Estates, under new leadership, implemented fair policies and welcomed input from residents, ensuring that no one would ever face the intimidation Liam had endured. In the end, the battle for one house became a story for many. Liam's stand against an overreaching WA president wasn't just a personal victory. It became a narrative about community, justice, and the importance of knowing one's boundaries. His home, secure and serene once more, stood as a symbol of resilience. The psychological shadow that had once threatened to consume him had been replaced with a quiet confidence. He knew, whatever challenges might arise in the future, he had the strength, patience, and wisdom to protect his sanctuary. And so, life continued. The maple leaves turned with the seasons. The sunlight poured gently across the porch in the mornings, and Liam Carter finally understood that a home is not just a structure, it's a space of freedom, dignity, and the peace one earns by standing firm against those who would try to take it away. Because sometimes, the greatest battles are fought not in courts or streets, but within the mind, the heart, and the quiet assertion of one's rights.